Improving your emotional intelligence. The first step is self-perception. This is crucial. You cannot skip this step. You may think that you know yourself deep down inside. You may think that you are a very self-aware person. Guess what? Think again. In many cases, we assume that our emotions. We make all sorts of snap judgments about how we feel. Little do we know that we're actually feeling many things at the same time. This always shocks people, even those who claim to be totally self-aware. This is why at this point in time, I need you to drop all your assumptions about how well you know yourself. Instead, ask yourself a very simple question. How aware am I of all my emotional states? Pay attention to the word all. This is plural. Every time you feel strong emotions, it usually doesn't just involve one emotion. You're feeling something before, during, and after that strong emotional state. If you ignore this or dismiss it outright, you're doing yourself a big disservice. You really are. You're putting yourself in a situation where there's a disconnect between how you're feeling and how others perceive you. You have to understand that there is often a disconnect between what you think you feel and what others say you're feeling. Now, this is not a question of opposition. This is not a question of black and white opposites, that either one is true and the other is false. Instead, this is a question of seeing the big picture. For example, you're feeling depressed that your ex-girlfriend is going out with somebody else. But if you dig deep enough, you're not just feeling sadness. You're also feeling nostalgia and a sense of disappointment in yourself because you did not treat her better. You may even be feeling angry at yourself. There are so many different emotions that are going on. It's kind of like a tossed salad. There are many different layers to this emotional state that you're in. It would help tremendously if you consult with other people to get the view from outside. You may feel just totally depressed, but it may well turn out that there are other things going on. If you are aware of these and you are able to overcome your own sense of denial, then you become less disconnected. You will be able to clearly express your emotions better. But most importantly, you will become more aware of what you are truly feeling in any point in time. The problem of denial. Why do people play the denial game? Why do people lie to themselves? Well, a part of that is due to the fact that we are playing to the crowd. For example, guys are not supposed to feel sad. You're supposed to be tough, independent, and autonomous. Negative feelings should slide off you like water off a duck's back. Similarly, if you're female, you're supposed to feel empathetic. You're supposed to be compassionate. So when you feel contempt and anger, you get confused. You have to overcome this and replace it with a deep sense of authenticity. You have to remember that there's no such thing as a right and wrong emotion. What's important is that you are fully aware that you are feeling it. That's all you need to do. Acknowledge that you are feeling it. Clearly identify it. There's nothing to explain. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's nothing to sweep under the rug. Just acknowledge it. Don't label it as ugly, inappropriate, or something a bad person would feel. Your job is to be as clear as possible about the emotions that you're feeling. Take ownership of them. There's no need to apologize for them. Overcome this natural sense of denial because since we were children, we were trained to deny our feelings. We were trained to make excuses for them. Well, starting now, you're going to have to overcome that. You can't assume that you'll automatically be understood. Another problem that gets in the way of a heightened level of emotional self-perception is the idea that people will automatically get us. I really can't blame people for thinking this way. After all, when you were a kid and you were going through your emotional growing pains, your parents gave you a lot of rope and they played along. They may have even enabled you. The problem is, at some point, you're going to have to grow up. The people around you are not going to bend over backwards to try to understand you. They're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. They definitely are not going to give you much rope. Don't put yourself in the position of constantly assuming that people will automatically understand what you're expressing and what your words truly mean. You have to understand that people have enough problems of their own. They have their own lives to live. Otherwise, you're putting yourself in the situation where people are basically going to be walking on eggshells around you. You will be a very unpleasant person to be around. You don't want to play that game. You have to get rid of this mental crutch. The more you believe that people will automatically understand what you're feeling, the less likely you're going to be doing the heavy emotional work of being truly emotionally self-aware. Stop playing to the crowd. In addition to what I described above, another way people play to the crowd involves some sort of emotional Kabuki Theater. Have you seen a Kabuki show? The emotions of the actors are fixed. They are formulaic. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a very sensitive person to figure them out. In fact, you can actually read people's emotions in Kabuki because they are very easy to tell apart. When you play to the crowd, you are engaged in Kabuki Theater on an emotional level. Why? Well, when you express your emotions based on social expectations, you're not really showing your real face. You're not really expressing what you truly feel. Instead, you look at your situation and imagine what the right emotional state is. In other words, you're looking for what's socially acceptable. Then you express your emotions along those lines, exactly like Kabuki Theater. Life does not work on formulas. Unfortunately, the more you do this and play to the crowd this way, the less emotionally honest you become. Eventually, you reach a point where you can't even tell your own emotions unless they are reduced to cartoonish simplification. Stop playing to the crowd emotionally. Don't let social expectations dictate how you express yourself emotionally. Focus on honesty. If you're feeling sad, feel sad. If you're feeling upset, feel upset. Now, please understand that this doesn't mean lashing out. This doesn't mean that you have to bawl your eyes out or yell at somebody in anger. I'm talking about what you're feeling deep down inside. Instead of covering it up, pretending it's something else, or worse yet, denying it, feel it. Honesty is its own reward. If you keep covering up what you're feeling, the only person you're fooling is yourself. Remember, emotions have two levels. There is the purely subjective emotion, and you're the only person who can feel this, but there is also the external part. When you manifest emotions, other people can see signals that you're sending out. Unfortunately, unless you are completely honest with what you're feeling, oftentimes, there is a disconnect between the objective signals you're sending out and what you subjectively feel. This type of honesty is its own reward. The more you practice honesty deep down inside, the better off you will become. Log your emotions. Keep an emotional intelligence journal. Your first step is to log your emotions. Once you're clear, you're going to have to overcome denial and stop playing to the crowd. Log what you're feeling. Remember, there is no right or wrong answer. Nobody has to read your notes. It's not like you're going to write all this down and post it on Facebook. This is for your eyes only. Just write whatever is at the top of your head. This is the subjective part. As long as you feel it, write it down. Next, describe it in objective terms. This is very important. What is the context of your feelings? What brought it on? What exactly do you feel? For example, if the mental image of my ex-girlfriend who cheated on me flashed in my mind, I would write, I feel sad because she betrayed me. She didn't tell the truth. She told me lie after lie to my face. She let me go on, knowing full well that she was doing certain things behind my back. It was only until I discovered that she was doing these things that she told me the truth. This is why I feel bad. When you write along these lines, you're being objective because you are tracing what you feel, which is sadness, to a set of facts that happened in a specific time and a specific place in your personal history. This is the objective portion of your log. You're creating context when you do this. Now, the next part is subjective. You ask yourself, what do I think I'm feeling? I think I'm feeling sadness, but is there anything else? I feel nostalgia because I truly loved her. I believed her. A part of me would like to think that she loved me too. She seemed conflicted at the end when we broke up. After you've written this type of material, you ask yourself, what are the objective factors here? What are the things that I can test? Well, you can test the fact that she lied to you because you talked to your common friends and they told you the truth. You can test the fact that she did all these things. In that context, it's okay to feel sad, and that's what you're really feeling. You're also feeling angry and betrayed. You're feeling abandoned. The key here is to list down all the emotions that would be warranted by the facts. That's how you get to your real emotions. You can't just say, I feel sad, or I feel angry, or I feel regretful. That is too shallow. You have to look at the whole set of facts, pay attention to the context, and then list down all the emotions that could possibly come. After that, ask yourself, am I feeling this? That's how you break down that iceberg of emotions, instead of just vainly scraping the surface. If you keep going through this process, you start seeing the big picture of how your emotions stack up and how you express them. Ask a friend. When you're interacting with your friends, like telling jokes, hearing sad stories, listening to them, and just basically hanging out together, stop and ask them, look at my face. Pay attention to my words. Look at how I'm carrying myself. What do you think I'm feeling? Now, please understand that you have to do this with real friends because real friends care. But there is also a chance that they will try to give you the answer that you're looking for because they don't want to offend you. They want to remain your friends. You have to give them permission to be completely honest. Ask your friend what he or she perceives based on facts. This is the most important part. They have to tell you their interpretation of your feelings, but they have to give facts to support it. Maybe they would say, yeah, I saw you smirking, so I think that you were upset when we were talking about your ex-girlfriend. I saw you with a smile in your eyes when you're talking about Jennifer. Maybe you really enjoyed being friends with that classmate of yours, and so on and so forth. The key here is to get them to say facts. Remember, it's not going to help you if your friend just says, well, I think you're still feeling guilty about what you did to Eduardo 20 years ago. That doesn't help because it's purely subjective. Who knows how they came up with that conclusion? So, ask for facts. What you're doing is you're trying to correlate what you're subjectively feeling with what your friend perceives objectively. This goes a long way in fixing that disconnect that I described earlier. Train yourself. Now that you have logged your emotions and asked friends, you should have enough information regarding whatever disconnect may exist between your subjective feelings and how you externalize or communicate these feelings. At the very least, you would be more aware of the emotional signals that you are sending out. Armed with this information, you can ask yourself what the objective parameters are of certain emotions. What kind of emotional range do I normally exhibit when I'm feeling these certain types of strong emotions? Sadness, happiness, joy, anger, shock, guilt, regret, etc. Remember, strong emotions often happen within a range. It's not just one emotion that you're feeling. Now that you have a fairly clear understanding of your range of emotions and the objective parameters for those, what they're supposed to look like, and how you communicate them, the next step is to train yourself to emote in objectively clear terms. It's very important to then look at the range of emotions and be as clear about them as you can. This way, when you feel sad, people perceive that you are sad. Not shocked, not nostalgic, not guilty, but sad. If you're upset and angry, that's what people should perceive you as. You have to train yourself on 2 levels. You have to learn how to emote the emotions that you're feeling in clear terms objectively, so people are less likely to misread you. This, of course, assumes that you learned an earlier lesson, which is that you're fully in tune with what you're feeling. You're not mislabeling it, you're not in denial, nor are you taking one emotion over another. Instead, you are fully aware of what you're feeling at all times. This takes a lot of work because, let's face it, most people are lazy. Most people would rather make assumptions of strong emotions that they feel and leave it at that. This emotional self-awareness is the foundation of emotional control. Get this right, and you are well on your way to self-mastery, create your personal success, and higher emotional intelligence.